NFL Talk with Elite Wages.
Yo, what's happening everyone? Welcome back to another episode of NFL Talk with Elite Wages. Hope everyone is doing well on this Friday night before Super Bowl Sunday. Obviously we've had a week off from last week. There was no football on last week. Conference championship weekend has concluded, and we now have the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs heading to the Super Bowl. Before I start, I want to just say that this is going to be the last NFL Talk of Elite Wages episode of the season. Obviously, after Sunday, there's going to be no more NFL for the 2024-25 season. But this will be back again in late August, September. And I do have some new things in the pipeline as well. So keep an eye out on my Twitter and everything like that for more information on that soon. So so we're into the biggest game of the season. The 59th Super Bowl. It's going to be hosted in New Orleans in the Caesar Superdome on Sunday night. Obviously, like I said, it's the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. As expected, the game is going to be extremely difficult to call. Both teams seem to have played at a different level this season. But obviously, Super Bowl, majority of the season stats are quite irrelevant now. Both teams will be throwing 110% into this game, trying to lift that Lombardi Trophy. Obviously, the Eagles will try and make up for the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs a few years ago, and the Chiefs will try and become the first team in history for the three-peat. It's a difficult game to call. We've got two teams on different trajectories throughout the season. It's a well-known fact that the Chiefs haven't played their best this year. They've played nowhere near the level of the previous Super Bowl victories from the 2 years prior. But I think it's time to eliminate that from our minds. We all know what Patrick Mahomes and the rest of the Chiefs can do when it gets into the playoffs. The Eagles have been playing at a really exceptional level for probably around 80% of the year. Obviously bar a few slip-ups and things like that. They've been fairly dominant all season long. But the big question is, do they have what it takes to take down the Kansas City Chiefs? In my personal opinion, I believe they do. I feel like this is a game that's going to be called on a lot of personal opinions, and a lot of people are going to be on the Chiefs, a lot of people are going to be on the Eagles for whatever reasons. These are simply my reasonings on why I believe the Eagles will take down the Chiefs. It seems like the majority of the United States and even the world are against the Chiefs, according to Bison. Eagles are getting 54% of bets on the money line. The Chiefs' offense has been really, really slow this season. Early injuries to Isaiah Pacheco and Hollywood Brown impacted that offense a lot. Obviously, Rashee Rice as well. He is still out. They have got back Pacheco and Hollywood Brown, but those absences impacted them a lot. They couldn't sort of get their other stars, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. They couldn't get them going as well as they have been playing in the past couple of seasons. Mainly because of this. They've been the main sort of focal point for the teams, and the defenses have honed in on those particular areas, and it's been a struggle for them. So Kelce actually had one of his worst seasons in recent years. He's gone back-to-back years now without 1,000 yards receiving after going 7 straight with 1,000 yards. Patrick Mahomes wasn't really much better either. The Chiefs' passing offense ranked 15th in the NFL for passing yards per game. Their run game didn't help them either. Obviously, they got Kareem Hunt back after Isaiah Pacheco went down with that broken leg. But they finished in the bottom 10, averaging 103 rushing yards per game as well. So offensively haven't really been playing solid. Despite their offense not playing to their full potential, they still managed to average the 12th most points per game on average with 23. It was the Chiefs' defense that actually allowed this team to win games. It kept them in a lot of crucial games. Crucial turnovers. They averaged one forced turnover per game. Obviously allowing Patrick Mahomes to have a short field to work with. The Chiefs actually ranked in the middle of the league in passing defense, but their run defense ranked 9th in the league, allowing the 9th least rushing yards per game with 109. Overall on defense, they're more legitimate contenders. Top 10 in opponents' points per game, yards per game, points per play, yards per rush, red zone touchdown percentage, all in the top 10 on the defensive metrics. The Chiefs' defense is, as expected, playing their best football at the right time. We seem to get into this playoff stage, and the Chiefs just turn over a new leaf, and they just sort of become a new team. Offensively, have been playing better. Defensively, have been playing significantly better as well. So, through 2 playoff games so far, they've earned 10 sacks and allowed just 414 yards combined through the air. Considering the quarterbacks they faced, CJ Stroud and the new MVP of the NFL, Josh Allen, that's fairly impressive. The real concern for Kansas City Chiefs is their running defense. They're going to play against the best running back in the league, Saquon Barkley, Offensive Player of the Year. He poses a threat that no defense has been able to stop this season at all. He averages a ridiculous 125 rushing yards per game. He's a dynamic running back. He can be used in the passing game as well as the run game. He's explosive and he's a game changer. And it's going to be really difficult for the Kansas City Chiefs to stop. They have already allowed a few running backs to succeed in big games as well this season, and they will be concerned about Saquon Barkley. So their focal point is most probably going to be on how do we stop Saquon Barkley. I'm sure defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo will have his unit ready, but Barkley and arguably the best offensive line in NFL is going to be impossible to stop for all 4 quarters. It's going to be a really tough task to ask them to hold Saquon Barkley in this O-line for 4 full quarters. The O-line is also giving Hurts a lot of time to throw the ball. Admittedly, Hurts hasn't thrown the ball a lot towards the latter stage of the season, but he is averaging the 5th best passer rating in the NFL. Again, mainly down to the offensive line being the best in the league. His receiver core is obviously up there with the best in the league as well, but as mentioned, this is going to be Saquon Barkley's time. He's changed the trajectory of his career after leaving New York. He reached the Super Bowl in his first season after leaving. He also nearly broke the rushing yard record as well, which he would have done if he played in Week 18. He's been the difference for this Eagles team in all the playoff games so far. He's accumulated 450 scrimmage yards in total, with 5 total touchdowns in those 3 games that he's played. And again, it's going to be very challenging to ask the Chiefs to stop this red-hot Eagles offense that's averaged 28 points per game throughout the season and the 7th most total yardage with 367 in the NFL. As good as the offense has been, the defense has actually been better. I'm insanely high on this defensive unit. You got Carter and Smith up front disrupting opposing quarterbacks. You got Bourne in the middle, locking up the middle with Blankenship just behind. Fantastic secondary, obviously, with Blankenship, Darius Slay, rookies Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, Gardner Johnson as well. And they've all played really, really well, but those 2 rookies and Mitchell and DeJean have played excellent in their rookie seasons, and they obviously round off this elite defensive unit. Statistically, they rank as the best defense in the league, and they allow the least points per game on average with 17, and also they allow the least total yardage per game with 289. Vic Fangio was just appointed defensive coordinator for the Eagles this season. He's actually made this defensive unit a whole lot better. During the playoffs, he's kept 3 very good offenses in the Packers, the Rams and the Commanders to just 55 total points. Being one of the best pass defenses is going to be a boost in this game as well. Cancelling out Patrick Mahomes will be the key to winning this game, in my opinion. And in fact, you'll have to go back to week 4 to find a quarterback to throw for 300 or more yards against this Eagles defense. So, they certainly look up to the task of taking out Patrick Mahomes from the Chiefs' game plan. Their run D is ranked inside the top 10 as well. But the Chiefs' run offense hasn't really been elite this year, so that shouldn't be too big of a concern for me. All focus, in my opinion, will be on the Eagles' defense, smothering Mahomes, and the offensive line, creating gaps for Barkley and allowing Hurts to throw the ball when, giving him plenty of time to pick out those elite wide receivers. The Eagles have been significantly better all season. They've been more consistent all year round, and I believe that they're going to be a tough team to beat. The Eagles, for me, get revenge for their playoff loss 2 years ago, and they take down the Chiefs in their three-peat quest. I'm going to go for 1 unit. Eagles money line at plus 115. This is essentially just going to be one big sort of preview of the whole game, a big breakdown of the two teams and why I'm making these selections in as I go along. So obviously the first play being the Eagles money line. I believe the Eagles win this game. But the second play is going to be something that sort of the Eagles have been able to utilize all year round. They've done it consistently. But as I mentioned, a huge part of the Eagles' offense is their run game. They rush for the second most yards per game on average with 186. They're fourth in the NFL for yards per carry with 5.1, and they actually lead the league in rushing touchdowns, averaging 2 per game. They've rushed for a total of 29 touchdowns during the regular season and an additional 10 in the playoffs so far. Barkley himself has 18 of those touchdowns, but in this offense and in the red zone, there's actually really no telling who will get the carries. Hurts, he's scored in all but 6 games all season, making him just as dangerous as Barkley. I expect this to be a very competitive game. In the conference championship game, the Chiefs allowed 2 rushing touchdowns, and in the conference championship game as well, the Eagles obliterated the Commanders and ran in 7. I do not expect them to shy away from the game plan. It's been there all year round. It's gotten them to this stage. It's easy to forget that Hurts ran in 3 touchdowns in this matchup in Super Bowl 57. But rather than back, Barkley for a touchdown at juiced odds, or risking Barkley to run in 2, when you've got the possibility of Hurts sneaking one in on that tush push, or even you can use his legs from wherever. He's a really solid runner. I prefer not to take the risk in backing either one for 2. But I'm gonna be willing to take the Eagles to run in 2 as a team. So small additional fact for both the Eagles money line and Eagles over 1.5 rushing touchdowns. Super Bowl 59 will be the birthday of Saquon Barkley. So there's no better birthday present than a Super Bowl ring, and a touchdown in the game as well will be huge for that quest. It's also Cooper DeJean's birthday as well, so I already expect him to have a solid game in the defensive unit. But yeah, we'll go for another 1 unit on the Eagles over 1.5 rushing touchdown. That's at odds of minus 120. The next bet on this game for me is going to be a bit of a controversial bet in this matchup. So far it might seem like I'm just playing props on the Eagles sort of team or players because I believe they win, but that's not the case. I will get into the Chiefs soon. Although I think the Eagles win, the Chiefs will certainly play a huge part in this game. This bet is a player head-to-head bet. They've just made these available for this game. I've never seen these before. You can sort of bet anything from Saquon Barkley versus Kareem Hunt, Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert against Travis Kelce, everything like that. Who's going to get the most yardage? And that's what I'm going to target in this one. It's going to be Dallas Goedert against Travis Kelce. And now, like I said, I think the Chiefs will play a huge part in this game. I think they will put up points. Travis is obviously Patrick Mahomes' go-to guy. He's his safety blanket. He has been for numerous years, especially in the playoffs where both players excel. But in this Super Bowl matchup, I believe Dallas Goedert will outplay Travis Kelce. Kelce's disappointed this year. Like I said earlier, he failed to hit the 1,000-yard mark in back-to-back seasons after achieving 1,000 yards in 7 straight. Dallas Goedert has been hit with injuries this season, but when he has played, he's been a key contributor to this Eagles offense passing game. He's also been Hurts' safety blanket when he needs a quick pass on a third down. He's there. In recent weeks, Dallas has been a lot more productive than Kelce. He's totaled more receiving yards in 3 of the most recent 5 games. Coincidentally, Goddard also racked up more receiving yards than Kelce in 3 of the last 5 head-to-head matchups too. So aside from Kelce's 117-yard game against the Texans a few weeks back, he's been really underwhelming. He hasn't actually hit over 100 yards all season this year. In that game against the Texans, he got really lucky. He was left wide open a few times. He got a 61-yard reception. He was left wide open. No one wanted to tackle him. But then when they played the Bills a week after, which the Bills are an elite defensive unit, they locked him up for 19 yards. So I believe there is going to be a similar game plan for the Eagles. They play the tight end position really well, and obviously they're an elite defensive unit, so I don't expect him to be able to get a lot of yardage in this game. Dallas Goedert, he's always been Hurts' safety blanket. The playoffs is no exception. He's been the most targeted player in the Eagles passing game in all 3 playoff games. He's also tied for most catches too in those same 3 playoff games. The Eagles showcased their ability to throw the ball as well as a run last week. They allowed Hurts to throw for 246 passing yards and a touchdown. He completed 71% of passes as well. So it's not just the run game that's going to be deadly in this game. It's Hurts' arm as well. The Eagles' defense is obviously the best in the league, especially against his tight end position. The Eagles this season have allowed the least total yards to a tight end position with 591, and the Chiefs have actually been the worst, allowing a total of 1,191. I'm going to back the Eagles, and I'm going to back them to lean on Dallas Goedert as well to target this win in the passing game. And I believe they'll target the Chiefs' weakest part of their passing defense. So I'm going to go 1 unit for Dallas Goedert, more receiving yards than Travis Kelce at plus 130. And again, in addition to this bet as well, I'm going to be fading Travis Kelce in another market. He's not that big chunk play guy anymore. His longest reception line has been set at 20.5. He's only gone over this line 8 times in 18 games, which it doesn't sound too bad. But again, we've got to reiterate the fact that this Eagles defense is the best of the best. It's the best in the NFL. Kelce got a lucky 49-yard reception against the Texans, but excluding that, he's 5 out of 6 to the under the longest reception market in his last 6 games. The Eagles average just under 35 yards per game to the tight end position, so asking Kelce to achieve over half of that in one catch is a huge ask, especially when they've only allowed 5 tight ends all season long to go for 21 or more yards on a reception. So I'm gonna back the Eagles. I'm gonna fade Travis Kelce. I'm gonna go 1 unit on Travis Kelce under 20.5 longest reception at minus 120. Now I think it's time to back a positive play for the Chiefs. I've been really high on this guy all season. I've taken this market a few times this season as well. I've targeted this guy a few times this season, and I'm going to be targeting the brightest spark in this dull Kansas City offense, Xavier Worthy. He's been the guy I've kept close tabs on all season. I've bet on him and this market a lot this year. He's a game changer. He's reliable. He's fast. With the assumption that Travis Kelce will basically be covered up for the game, the Chiefs will want to get Worthy the ball as much as possible. He has had a lot of targets so far this year. He's also had a lot of carries this year, so they're literally doing everything they can to sort of scheme him in to rushing plays, to passing plays, just to try and get the ball in his hands, get him out in open space, use his legs and his speed. So they've managed to get him the ball in the backfield on 14 of 18 games this year. He's recorded one or more carry. I believe this will continue again this week. I believe we see multiple carries from Worthy this week. The Super Bowl is the last chance to throw curveballs, throw any tricks that they've got left up their sleeves. When it comes down to it, they're going to want to do anything and try and scheme him in and try and disrupt this defensive unit to basically move him around and get him the ball as much as possible in open space. He's actually had multiple carries in 6 games this year, but I believe we make that 7 after Sunday. So we're going to go 1 unit Xavier Worthy over 1.5 rushing attempts at plus 140. So my next few bet selections will feature a mixture of the two teams to help cash these particular bets. Starting with a touchdown parlay. So I've got a 2-leg touchdown parlay. The first selection, I'm going to stick with Xavier Worthy. So as well as his rushing attempts, I'm going to go for him to score a touchdown in this game as well. Worthy is the most targeted wide receiver in the red zone for the Chiefs, and he's had 10 total touchdowns on the season, including 4 in his last 6 games. I believe he's the best option for a touchdown this week for the Chiefs offense. It hasn't been uncommon to see the Eagles rush for 2 touchdowns and throw for 1 as well in the same game. As I mentioned earlier, I'm very confident the Eagles will run in 2 touchdowns. I'm also very confident that Smith will find the end zone as well. Smith is in a similar position to Worthy. He'll be the guy the Eagles will look to score points. Obviously, Travis Kelce is Patrick Mahomes' go-to guy. He's going to be locked up. That's my assumption. My assumption for the Eagles is that AJ Brown will be locked up as well. So they're in very similar positions, and like Worthy, Smith has been the team's most targeted player in the red zone with 13 total touchdowns, and he converted 4 of those red zone looks into touchdowns. Smith has got 8 touchdowns on the regular season. He ended the season with 4 in his final 4 as well, but has yet to score in the playoffs this year. Smith has takeover ability. We saw it 2 years ago in Super Bowl 57 where he went off for, I think it was like 11 catches and 100 yards. With the Chiefs' best cornerback in McDuffie likely on AJ Brown a lot of the time, the Chiefs' defensive front focused on stopping Barkley. Smith's got a huge opportunity in this game to get some points on the board for his team in the passing game as well. So we've got 1 unit on the touchdown parlay. It's going to be Xavier Worthy and Devonta Smith, and it's going to be really nice odds. It's plus 650. There's boosts all over the place for the Super Bowl as well, so this is what I've used a boost on as well, so that takes up to plus 750 for Xavier Worthy and Devonta Smith touchdowns. So I've talked about how both teams have exceptional talent on both sides of their footballing team. So obviously the Eagles defense is elite, the Chiefs defense is elite. The Chiefs offense has a lot of bright sparks and a lot of talent, and as do the Eagles. But an underrated position and an underappreciated position for me is the kicker. Both teams have excellent kickers. Jake Elliott and Harrison Butker, both very, very good kickers, and they have been for a period of time, a number of years for both of these football teams. Jake Elliott's actually kicking 77% on the year, which is to his standards a bad year, but he has been able to kick mid-range field goals fairly well when called upon. The trouble with backing Elliott is the Eagles' offense has been red hot. They either need him or they don't. There's no in between. So similar story for the Chiefs. He's been their number 1 guy for numerous years. He's been Mr. Reliable. He's actually kicking 84% this year. With the Chiefs not being lightning on the offensive front, they've actually had to use him. They've actually used 3 kickers this year because Booker went on injury reserve for a little bit. But they've had to rely on their kickers a little bit this year. So between the 3 kickers for Kansas City Chiefs this year, they managed to kick a 35-yard or longer field goal in 14 of 19 games in total. The Eagles and their kicker Jake Elliott, they were able to achieve this in only 9 of 20. But in this game, points are going to be a necessity. The Super Bowl, if they get the opportunity, up to 50 yards, maybe even longer, I expect them to take that kick on. I don't expect them to take risks, especially earlier on in the game. Both defenses are elite and they can stop the opposition on 3rd down, force those kicks, and like I said, it'll be a necessity to get points. The Eagles will be comfortable in Elliott kicking for field goal wherever and whenever he's called upon. Same story for Butker and the Chiefs. If the opportunity arises for a long field goal or anything sort of over 35 plus, both teams will be fairly comfortable in their kickers. So I'm going to go for A slightly unusual one, but I'm going to go for 1 unit, both teams to kick a 34 or longer yard field goal at minus 105. The next bet on my board is, well, it's not going to be as common as the other bets. I know it is available in a few books. You'll have to really dig around to find it. I got this on Bet365, but I have seen it on sports books like Betfair. It's a little bit juicier than I'd have liked. I'd have liked this at a bit nicer odds, but I don't mind it as much. I think it's going to be. I think it's got a strong chance of hitting. This bet is going to apply for both teams. Either team could get this bet to cash. I believe there will be ample opportunities for this bet to cash for both teams. It's been really hard to find statistics on this bet, and it's actually been really difficult to analyse, but I'm willing to take a punt. I think it comes in. It's a winner-takes-all matchup, so both teams and both coaches and things do things to try and do whatever they can to get the jump on the opposition team. So both teams have actually attempted 4 coaches' challenges each during the season. Andy Reid has won 1, Nick Sirianni's won 3. With both teams doing everything they can to win, a team's perspective can differ of what is a catch, what's not a catch. I.e., I believe there will be a few controversial calls. Challenge flags will fly. Trying to get a call to go their way or overturned, try and swing momentum into their favour, or simply just to sort of stop a nice drive for the opposition team with a controversial call. But I do believe that there will be one or more coaches challenge flag in this game, so I'm going to go 1 unit over 0.5 coaches challenge at minus 147. So that's actually my main card, all broken down, all analysed. So I'll run through those plays quickly. So they're all 1 unit. We've got Eagles money line at plus 115, Eagles over 1.5 rushing touchdowns at minus 120, Xavier Worthy over 1.5 rushing attempts at plus 140, a Worthy and Smith touchdown parlay at odds of plus 750 with a boost, Kelsey longest reception under 20.5 at minus 120, Dallas Goedert over Travis Kelsey at plus 135, both teams to make it a 34 or longer yard field goal at minus 105, over 0.5 coaches challenge at minus 147. So there's my main bets. Obviously, with it being the Super Bowl, we've got novelty bets or game script bets, which I'm going to run through. These are basically, you can't analyse these are just personal preference. These are just for fun. So I would actually like to hear what everyone has got for these. I did post a TikTok on my TikTok earlier today with all mine. From coin toss, national anthem length, first halftime show song, and the Gatorade colour. So I've gone for tails at plus 100, national anthem to go over 120.5 at minus 110. First halftime show song is going to be King Kunta at plus 900, and the Gatorade colour is blue at plus 750. Obviously, they all differ, personal opinions. They're basically just guesses. There's no analytics to these, so take these with a pinch of salt. I'd love to hear what you've all got as well, so comment below. I do have long shot leans as well, not official bets, but things I have taken as long shots. Long shots aren't always necessarily huge odds, but they are very risky bets too. So betting on any kind of MVP market is considered a long shot in my opinion. One catch, a rush, a kick that could determine the game, and that could swing the MVP in another direction. For me, this is a game that's going to take a huge effort from Saquon Barkley to help the Eagles win the game. I'm essentially saying that if the Eagles want to win, it's going to be in the hands of Barkley. He's going to have a monumental game to help propel the Eagles, as does the Eagles defense. There's a number of players on the defensive side of the ball that could step up and be a true hero for their team. You've got Bourne, Carter, DeJean, Slay, Mitchell, all of them. They've all turned up in the playoffs. they're all playing some incredible football as well. A huge game from Carter. A nice stat line could swing the MVP in his favour. Cooper DeJean having sort of two or three picks could do the same. This also applies for the Chiefs defence. Chris Jones, Carl Aftis, McDuffie, Nick Bolton, they could all impact the game in a positive way for their teams. There's certainly no telling, but for me, if the Eagles are going to win, offensively it's going to be Barkley, and as the old saying goes, defence wins championships. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a defensive player stand out from the rest during this game. In the last 10 years, only one defensive player has won the Super Bowl MVP after a huge game, stat padding, for Von Miller 9 years ago. I think he had something like 2.5 sacks, nine tackles, a pass deflected, a forced fumble, something like that. So a huge stat line. Could be a similar story for sort of Chris Jones or Carter. Cooper DeJean could have a huge game. Anyone on the defensive side of both teams. For the running back position, only 6 players in history has won Super Bowl MVP as a running back. You'll have to go back 27 years ago to find the last running back, and exactly 27 years ago to the day on Sunday, Barkley would have been celebrating his first birthday. So my Super Bowl MVP long shot bets are Barkley at plus 260 and any defensive player at plus 1300. Again, another long shot bet I'm taking in this game is going to be both teams to score a rushing and a passing touchdown. Obviously, like I said, it's not necessarily long odds that make this a long shot. It's the probability of it happening. As I've mentioned, in the breakdowns before, I believe I've mentioned how the games go. Both teams, the Eagles and the Chiefs, can effectively run the ball and pass the ball. Hunt and Pacheco have been really, really, good in the run game for the Chiefs in recent years. We all know the potential of Patrick Mahomes as well, what he can do with his arm, and he scored a rushing touchdown last week as well. Same goes for Barkley and Hurts in the running game, and obviously Hurts in the passing game with A.J. Brown and Smith, Dallas Goedert as well. So there's a lot of targets for both teams in the passing game and in the rushing game. So I believe both teams will be able to utilise their run and their pass to get them points. So that's again both teams, 1 rushing and 1 passing touchdown. That's a plus 188. A hugely controversial bet I found on Bet365 this week. It's quite funny actually. It was the Eagles to have a roughing the passer penalty. There's been a lot of rumours, theories, opinions on the Chiefs getting some questionable calls week in, week out. A lot of them have something to do with Patrick Mahomes on a weekly basis. Mahomes has drawn a roughing the passer penalty in 8 of 20 playoff games so far in his career. In my opinion, it's worth a punt. All things considered being leading up to this game, a few controversial calls for roughing the passer against the Texans. I think there's one last week against the Bills as well. It wouldn't be a shock to see another roughing the passer penalty called in Mahomes' favour again this week. So Eagles have a roughing the passer penalty at plus 175. And that actually concludes the final NFL episode of this season. Like I said earlier, I do have some things upcoming in the pipeline. Come back next Friday for another episode. I will mention more about this on Twitter during the week next week after Super Bowl. But yeah, it's going to be really, really sad to see this one end for the season. It shouldn't be too long though. It'll be around again fairly soon. We're back in August for this. But as always, if you could like, subscribe, share, follow on all social media platforms. I'll post my link tree in the bio below. Click that, give me a follow. Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, TikTok, Twitter, Discord. Jump in the Discord, 24/7 chat. And yeah, follow me on all those socials. And it's time to lock in for the final time in the NFL season. Everyone have a good Super Bowl Sunday, and let's get it.